And a pleasant one to you. This is Ron Harder's, the Chi-Town Expat. And I'm here to bring you some truth from the right side of the aisle. This is my first show on this station, and I think we've got a few wrinkles that we have to iron out, but by next week we should have them all set. So just for introduction's sake, I do a lot of reading, and I also do a lot of investigating on the internet and so on. And I bring some things to the show that most people probably haven't heard of or seen. And it may come as a shock to some of you that of what goes on beneath the deep state. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, the deep state is the bureaucratic, technocratic experts that supposedly are running the country and are supposedly doing it so well that the rest of us don't have to worry about a thing. But we've seen how that works. And now that we have Mr. Trump as our president, and we've added 3 million new jobs in the first year of his presidency, and we're about to show down Mr. The North Korean president, Kim Jong-un, and he's kind of backed off from being the tough guy that he supposedly is, because he realizes, I think, that he's up against somebody who is a lot tougher. So just to give you an idea, one of my sources is a book called Communiques from the Vast Right-Wing Conspiracy. And it is enabled, it is, you can buy it on Kindle, and it's all of, let's see, from 1375 to 1776 for a paperback book. And on Kindle, it doesn't cost you a dime. But you might be interested in it because it does go into all of the deep state, the uniparty, the unelected running of the government, and how they have destroyed the Constitution. And it actually started in the time of Mr. Jackson, our President Jackson. But in any case, top globalists, communists, and Islamists from around the world gathered in February on the Arabian Peninsula for the World Government Summit. Yes, that is the confab's real name. To push for what they called a new world order. More than a few speakers made clear that liberty, self-government, and the America First agenda were in the crosshairs. On the other hand, big government, transhumanism, and globalism were presented as the solution to basically everything, from alleged man-made global warming and health problems to unemployment and even hate. Aside from global governments and statism, one of the key themes of the conference was the merger of man and machine to become cyborgs. Artificial intelligence and happiness directed by authorities were also major topics. Isn't it marvelous? But while critics ridiculed and slammed the scheming, and most American media outlets completely ignored it, the globalist confab has been helping to advance a planetary agenda that is completely at odds with American traditions of liberty and self-government. And the speakers, organizers, and attendees barely bothered to conceal that fact, probably in part because they knew Americans were unlikely to hear about the antics from the purveyors of fake news posing as mainstream media. The truth was plain to see. In an official press release put out by the World Government Summit, the organizers said the event ended with a plea for institutions to realign with the New World Order. And the speakers made that clear too. Among those quoted in the press release, one claimed that people's expectations need governments to develop progressive policies that can accommodate the global transition. Remember Obama using the word transforming America? Fundamentally, of course, New World Order and progressive policies are both loaded terms that offer a strong hint about the real agenda of the forces behind the World Government Summit. Progressive, for instance, despite having absolutely no intrinsic relationship to progress, has become synonymous with statism, immorality, and corruption. And while the term now has a bad stench in the United States, much of the world remains oblivious to the slick marketing gimmick used to portray tyranny as modern and hip. New World Order has even more troubling connotation. For decades, top globalists, including multiple US presidents from both parties, have been openly and loudly demanding what they call a new world order. Former President George H.W. Bush defined it as one in which the United Nations would use its military forces to implement the vision of the UN's founders. That illustrious group included mass murdering dictator Joseph Stalin on the Soviet side and convicted Soviet spy Alger Hiss, who was selected to serve as the first UN Secretary General on the US side. More recently, billionaire Rothschild protege and self-styled God George Soros has been demanding a new world order. He said publicly that the mass murdering communist Chinese regime should own the new world order in the same way that the United States owned the previous one. Soros also claimed the murderous Chinese regime has a better functioning government than the United States. In Beijing, meanwhile, the dictatorship has been loudly and publicly demanding what it too calls a new world order. World Government Summit Chairman Mohammed Abdullah Al-Gergawi, who also serves as Minister of the Future, boasted that the summit, now in its 6th year, was a permanent knowledge platform for governments. Through the World Government Summit, we seek to create new models of international cooperation, he said, touting the agenda of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. The goal is to prepare for the future within the framework of global efforts to achieve a common goal. In reality, though, the New Americans, William F. Jasper, explained what is truly going on. Sheikh Mohammed is merely acting as a frontman for the organized One Worlders, Jasper wrote in a 2017 article about the summit's focus on happiness as a governmental responsibility. This is standard operating procedure at the UN and other international forums. Have some small country or group of nations propose the prearranged, prepared global agenda subplots so it won't appear that they are originating from the globalists in the United States, EU, and other major powers. Other elements of the World Government Summit agenda have been alluded to in not so subtle ways. Last year, for example, the globalists at the summit made headlines worldwide for gathering under a replica of this infamous Arch of Baal. Analysts suggested that the inclusion of the bizarre monument, which once stood in front of a pagan temple to the false god Baal, to whom children were often sacrificed, was extremely significant to some of the higher-ranking globalists. It was not immediately clear whether the pagan artifact was at this year's summit. Beyond that, the anti-American tone of the latest conflab was noticed by more than a few observers. This is a very anti-American three-day globalist summit, reported WND, pointing to various anti-America, anti-Trump rants by celebrities and globalist bigwigs at the summit that made America the #1 enemy. Among them was aging celebrity turned man-made global warming theorist Robert De Niro, who ridiculed his homeland, referring to it as a backward country, a place where science once reigned and lately has been replaced by ignorance. Some of the high-profile speakers at the summit and their comments were also a dead giveaway about the agenda. UN World Health Organization, boss, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, an Ethiopian communist, for example, promoted government control of healthcare under the guise of providing universal health. In fact, he claimed that pursuing government healthcare is the responsibility of every country and national government. And we know all about universal healthcare because of Obamacare. According to Tedros, the reason for the honor for some perspective on what Tedros means by universal health care and look at his recent comments and actions is helpful. Consider that last year, the WHO boss became the subject of global criticism and ridicule for trying to appoint genocidal Marxist dictator Robert Mugabe, infamous primarily for mass murder and destroying his once prosperous nation as WHO goodwill ambassador. According to Tedros, the reason for the honor was the dictator's strong commitment to health and how his regime supposedly places universal health coverage and health promotion at the center of its policies to provide health care for all. Beyond promoting the government takeover and destruction of health care, a key goal of progressives, communists, and New World Order globalists everywhere, a number of speakers also promoted a radical restructuring of government education to help centrally plan the economy. For instance, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation for the United Arab Emirates, called for identifying pupils talented in computing at an early age. New government education standards need to begin in nurseries and preschools, he said. The Islamic Sheikh, advocating an unprecedented rethink in education, called for a new national strategy that would meet the requirements and targets of the UAE government in both the private and public sectors. We need a new system of education that looks into the future, competitiveness, and the country's economic requirements. He continued, implying that the state would train future workers for future jobs that it believes will be needed. Of course, that is exactly the sort of rhetoric and ideology that animated communist education and indoctrination systems of the past, from the Soviet Union and Cuba to China and Cambodia. But in reality, the outlandish idea that central planners could somehow predict what the future economy 20 years from now will require and then shape human capital, children, for it, has been thoroughly debunked. Unfortunately, globalists around the world, at the UN and even in the US Department of Education, apparently never got the memo. Almost 90% of the UAE's workforce is employed by government today, Sheikh Zayed said. In addition to the globalism and statism, the World Government Summit also promoted agendas that almost sound too fringe and outlandish to believe. Consider, for instance, the prominent role of a man with an antenna sticking out of his head, touted as the world's first cyborgist, Neil Harbisson. With gender confusion all the rage and being legitimized by progressive governments and pushed by the UN, Harbisson argued that governments must now accept that some people will identify as cyborgs and will become part technology, part human. Isn't that wonderful? I have an antenna that is implanted inside my head, which allows me to extend my perception of reality beyond the visual spectrum, said Harbisson, co-founder of the Cyborg Society and the Transspecies Society, which fight for people who identify as non-human. I can sense infrared and ultraviolet, and I also have an internet connection in my head that allows me to receive colors from other parts of the world or connect to satellites so I can send colors from space. Another key plank of the summit was the promotion of artificial intelligence. Unsurprisingly, the UN and the globalist establishment have already announced their intention to hijack artificial intelligence technology to advance their totalitarian vision for the future, summarized neatly in the UN Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. And already robots programmed to regurgitate globalist talking points and praise for the UN have been paraded in front of the world as paragons of wisdom and virtue. And this is probably only the beginning. The World Government Confab received almost no coverage in establishment media outlets in the United States, despite the attendance and support of multiple prominent journalists and media organs. But lest the summit be dismissed as a fringe gathering of irrelevant kooks, a brief look at the 130 speakers reveals strong establishment support for the World Government Agenda. Indeed, among the summit speakers was a virtual who's who of the globalist establishment and its leading shills and useful idiots. The list included World Bank President Jim Kim, World Economic Forum, that's the WEF boss, Klaus Schwab, International Monetary Fund boss, Christine Lagarde, UN Educational, Cultural, and Scientific Chief, Audrey Azoulay, a well-known socialist, World Trade Organization boss, Roberto Azevedo, former Obama regulatory czar and fringe totalitarian, Cass Sunstein, who infamously called for a ban on conspiracy theories, far-left Huffington Post founder Arianna Huffington, executives from Google and Facebook, pseudo journalists and globalist propagandists such as Kenneth Cukier of The Economist and Becky Anderson of CNN, OECD boss Angel Gurria, a Chinese communist agent serving as UN Undersecretary General, education ministers, bureaucrats, CEOs, and more. With the globalist movement increasingly dropping the mask and the internet making it easy to spread information, Americans have an unprecedented opportunity to derail the global government agenda on display at the summit. Exposing globalist bigwigs using their own words and deeds is a crucial way to help. But America and liberty are in a race against time. The globalists have been hard at work for decades while Americans slept. If the sleeping giant that is the American public wakes up, all the schemes for world government in the world could be easily crushed. But getting involved now in preserving and protecting liberty, self-government, and the U.S. Constitution is crucial. And that, my friends, is what we're facing. And we need to actually wake up. And we have been granted by God a leader in Mr. Trump who is going to clean the swamp with our help. So until the next segment, I'm going to pass up and see you in a little bit. Okay?
Okay, your mic's on. Are Are you done for the show, or you guys want to take a short break?
Just a short break.
Okay. Stand by. Let me, I thought you were going to go straight through. Let me grab one of our breaks here. Hold on, Brandon.
Yes.
Okay, it's 2 minutes 46 seconds on that. We're trying to get everything outside here squared away.
Okay.
Sorry, not ignoring you, just trying to get
Well,
work all the
just tell
bugs
me
out. We
when
got a bunch of stuff going berserk on us today. Murphy's Law.
just tell me when it's time.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. All right, dude. I cannot find that email again. Can you just? I'm in the recording studio now.
Do you just need the password?
Yeah, just give me the password. I can't. That's what I was trying to find was the email you sent me with the
Don't worry
password.
about that.
All right, what is it?
AXUS6688.
Wait.
Is an Apple X-ray. Alpha X-ray under Sam.
Underscore.
You.
Oh. Alpha X-ray Uniform Sam.
Affirmative.
That's it. Just those four.
No, the 6688.
6688. All right, stand by. Murphy's Law. 1 minute.
And then when you're up, just pull up a Chrome browser, go to centerright.live, and then click Watch Live, and it should open the screen.
Yeah, hang on. It's still, I logged in, but it's taking forever to load.
Yeah, that's
Okay, hold on.
Windows 10 for you.
20 seconds. Stand by, we're getting ready to go back live. You're on.
Okay, we're back. And it's pretty interesting about the World Government Confab. But now we get into gun control. And there's just too much around to let these gun control, gun grabbing freaks win. And only you, our listeners, can bring this pertinent information to the attention of the American people. We conservatives are fed up with the false narrative being spread by the Democrat talking heads calling us Nazis. Please share this information via all of your social networking websites, including Facebook and Twitter, as well as send the story link to all of your friends via email. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The number of firearms deaths in the U.S. since 1968 versus the number of abortion deaths since 1973, when Roe versus Wade was enacted. The death toll from all firearms, 1968 to 2016, estimated is 1,500,000 581,943. This number includes all deaths, whether accidental, suicide, or homicides. In 34 years of mass shootings since 1982, there have been only 634 deaths by mass shootings. That number pales to the number of murders by abortion since Roe versus Wade was enacted 45 years ago in 1973. The number of deaths from fatal car crashes averages around 33,000 a year in the United States. But we don't blame cars for the carnage, do we? Let's look at the facts. In 45 years since abortion was legalized, over 60 million defenseless, innocent children have been murdered by scalpels, the preferred weapon of choice used by liberals. Why aren't Americans up in arms about making scalpels illegal? Those are statistics from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. If you lined up every person who was aborted since Roe versus Wade was enacted, over 60 million. Now let's assume there are people of all sizes and each person measures 2 feet. Now add 6 inches. It becomes 30 inches from person to person, shoulder to shoulder. The line would be 1,800,000 inches long. This would account for 150 million feet. This would equal 28,409 miles, if my mathematical calculations are correct. The line would circle the globe and then some, over 4,000 miles more. This is how long the line of people would stretch and then some if you lined up every person who has been the victim of an abortion since Roe versus Wade was enacted in 1973. It is 2,668.7 miles from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles, California. The equatorial circumference of Earth is about 24,900 miles. However, from pole to pole, the meridional circumference, Earth is only 24,812 miles. Now let's consider the annual number of deaths by doctors in the U.S. Through their analysis of 4 other studies examining death rate information, the doctors estimate that there are at least 251,454 deaths due to medical errors annually in the United States. The authors believe the number is actually much higher, as home and nursing home deaths are not counted in that total. The source of that was CNN. And liberals say conservatives are Nazis. They are actually using a Nazi tactic in which they accuse their opposition of that which they themselves are guilty of. Liberal progressive socialists have murdered more people in the United States alone since 1973 than were killed in the Holocaust. More people than were murdered by Stalin when he murdered 20 million of his own countrymen during and after the Bolshevik Revolution. Think about that the next time you hear some liberal crybaby talk about gun control and say we don't care about America's children. 7 quotes that prove Adolf Hitler was a proud socialist. From the Libertarian Republic, February 19, 2015, by Austin Peterson. Reproduced here in an easier to flow format than on the original post. Number one, I have learned a great deal from Marxism, as I do not hesitate to admit. Hitler may have publicly denounced Marxism because of his war against the hated Soviet Union. But privately, he also always admitted that he was at heart a left-winger. He once said to Otto Wagner that the problem with the politicians of the Weimar Republic was that they had never even read Marx. He believed that the problem of German communists was that they didn't understand the difference between principles and tactics. He referred to them as mere pamphleteers. Whereas I have put into practice what these peddlers and pen pushers have timidly begun, he stated plainly that the whole of National Socialism was based on Marx. Number two, my task is to convert the German folk people to socialism without simply killing off the old individualists. Hitler wanted to use the old classical liberal class, the entrepreneurs and the individualists' resources to build socialism in Germany. Socialism is defined technically as public ownership of the means of production. And instead of doing what Stalin did and purged the capitalists, he committed himself instead to simply confiscating their capital. The economy could easily be controlled simply by disposing the capitalist class of their means of production and guiding their productive capacity through the hands of the state. Number three, if we are socialists, then we must definitely be anti-Semites. And the opposite, in that case, is materialism and mammonism, which we seek to oppose. How, as a socialist, can you not be an anti-Semite? In a speech in Munich in August 1920, Hitler addressed the National Socialist Party on the issues of race and politics. It was widely known that socialists of the time were tied to eugenic policies, as they have throughout history. Indeed, everyone who supported genocide at that time also called themselves socialists. Number four, we must find and travel the road from individualism to socialism without revolution. Speaking to his associate, Hitler argued that the problem with Russian communism was that they had chosen their path as a revolutionary one. If individualism was to be destroyed, revolution was the most painful and difficult way to destroy the capitalists. Marx and Lenin had the right goals in mind, but simply chose the wrong tactics. Number five, why need we trouble to socialize banks and factories? We socialize human beings. Hitler's idea of national unity was to take socialism directly to the people. He wanted socialism to not just be about nationalizing industry, but nationalizing the people themselves. The people are the servants of the state, and socialism was the solution to all of society's ills. Number six, we are socialists. We are enemies of today's capitalistic economic system for the exploitation of the economically weak, with its unfair salaries, with its unseemly evaluation of a human being according to wealth and property, instead of responsibility and performance. And we are all determined to destroy this system under all conditions. Does it really get any more clear than this? Hitler stated plainly that he was an enemy of capitalism. Number 7, what Marxism, Leninism, and Stalinism failed to accomplish, we shall be in a position to achieve. Hitler was merely an unorthodox socialist. Again, he believed that the problems of his predecessors were simply tactical, not philosophical. You can read more here at http://bit.ly/2 capital F, capital B, small w, capital M, capital S, capital A. What more proof do modern Democrats need that they are the Nazis of the 21st century, not we conservatives? And it seems that the left is really good at calling us the names that apply to their actions. And it's time that we woke up and fought back. And every time they start talking about being racists or Nazis or some other derogatory term, we have to throw it back in their face and make them eat their own words and take the responsibility for what they really are. So I want you to keep that in mind and start looking for the way to fight the left. Donald does it. He uses Twitter and he really goes after some of those people on the left and all of the establishment people. Now, you have to understand that the establishment is there to line their own pockets. They couldn't care less about the American public or American citizens. All they care about is what kind of power they have, what kind of income they can generate from it, and the hell with the Americans, because they're just an impediment to their making money, to their making a fortune. And that's why they can't stand Donald Trump. Now, he may not be the conservative, the complete conservative that we want or would like to see, but the one thing we have to take at this point is he loves America. He loves this country. He has enough money that he actually made legally, not criminally, not corruptly. And the fact that he's actually a lot of his wealth has gone down the tubes now that he's been president for a year. But it really doesn't matter, because I think he's been appointed. He's our Ezekiel. I think he's been picked by God to rescue our country, and we, as Americans, had better stand up behind him. Now, the school systems have actually ruined our youth. The kids, they don't know how to write in cursive writing. They don't know the history, the proper history of our country. They don't know anything about civics. It's a shameful thing that the education system has fallen into. But it's not been by accident. This has actually been part of the progressive what word am I looking for here? The progressive conspiracy to turn America into a section of the one world order, and to ruin America and all of its people. So it's time, I think, for us to get off the couch and get busy, get an eye on our politicians who tell us one thing when it's time to be voted for, and go ahead and do something else when it comes time to vote. So, keep yourself going. Don't be discouraged. The establishment is losing right now, and we have to keep after them to keep doing it, what we're doing. So don't go back into your shells. Come back out, stay out, and hold the politicians and the bureaucrats responsible for their treasonous acts. Now, I just saw something last week, and it was supposed to start tomorrow. And the military is supposed to go around and start arresting the treasonous people in the country and trying them and convicting them and executing them. Now, I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but it seemed to be pretty well expected by where I read it from. So until next week, I'm going to give you a bye-bye and turn it over to the radio station for their time today. Okay.
Have these been sanitized? I want to
Let me
know.
spit on it.
Okay, you guys are live on YouTube.
You're now seeing behind the scenes on YouTube at Chips and Salsa. starring Alice Lara.
Ta-da!
Sitting in today for George will be Brad Zinn. See? Host.
Can be the honorary Latino today.
Honorary
What can we call you?
Latino? Sure, I'd be honored to be
How could
Latino.
you transfer Brad into Spanish? Bravo. Bravo.
Well, actually, it comes
Is it
from,
Bradley?
Brad comes from the Bacchus, the god of wine.
Does it? Yeah.
Bacchus is the derivative, is the origin of Brad,
Yeah.
Bradley.
Is that right?
Yes,
What
I
about-
looked it up one day.
Zin, is that a shortened?
No, no,
It's a real
Zinn means tin or tinsmith in German. It comes from the Alsace-Lorraine area on the border between France and Germany. And I met a gentleman who'd done extensive genealogical research into the name, because my dad always thought it was shortened at Ellis Island
That's what
from
I figured.
Zimmerman or
That's what I
something, you know.
Because everybody-
Okay, Melissa and
it's a-
Brad, I need you guys to go a little bit that way.
Okay,
Yeah, kind of scrunch it in there.
there.
Yeah, don't grab the mic, just grab that, and then Brad's voice booms like crazy. I need this down
Okay.
for Alice.
So it's
But you're
actually
good.
pronounced Zinn, like a TS.
Okay.
Zin.
Yeah,
Going
I think
live on
Zinn,
Facebook, stand
tin or
by.
tinsmith.
Yeah.
And it's remained pure down through the ages. I couldn't wait to run home. and
We are
tell my
live on
dad,
Facebook.
because he always
Stand by
wanted
to go
it to be
live.
short.
Yeah.
And I said, nope. We actually have a coat of arms.
Really?
Yeah. It's a little cheap piece of tin, but it's a coat of
Right, the coat of arms.
What I'm gonna do is we're gonna do these guys first.
Uh-huh.
And I may introduce you anyway, so you can just, you're here.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the next segment, and you guys are welcome to stay while we interview him.
Okay. And you better come, Tom, because if you miss this one,
When is it?
turn it over. If you miss this, you may never see it again.
Oh. Okay.
And I want to be sure and do a shout out to them and Melissa. I want to make sure we mention the mothers and families of murdered children and talk about that.
Okay, so we can do the walk.
And we are here. It's the Chips and Salsa Show. My goodness, it's already Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock here on Center Right Radio. It's March 10th. I am Alice Lara. I'm kind of your solo host, but not really today. You'll notice that George Ortiz, Don Jorge, is not here today. He's the hardest working man in Arizona. He had to work today. He had to make some real money. So he's not here today, but that's okay. I will be here, and I've got, man, we have a really rockin' show. In fact, we kind of have an honorary, kind of co-host because he comes so often and we love him so much. Brad Zinn is back.
Live from Burbank, California, this is the Chips and Salsa Show.
Entertainer, crazy man at the mic, whatever you want to call him. He can do anything. He does impressions. He's here. He's going to talk about his fundraiser at the Herberger Theater for the Damien Gosa Foundation. And we'll be introducing someone else with that foundation in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to remind you, if you're watching us on our Facebook page, that's Chips, Letter and Salsa Show, you can go right now because we're live. And I'm going to do this as I speak. And you'll see that we're on, and you can click the share button. And what I would love for you to do is go to your own personal Facebook page and just post it there and share it because we need to spread the word. Maybe you're an admin on other pages. If you want to share it there as well, that would be great because it's really going to be a good show. We're going to talk to Brad about his special fundraiser with the Damien Gosa Foundation. We also have Melissa Gallegos. Welcome to the
Thank
show
you,
here.
thank you guys.
And Cynthia, who's on with us quite from some time to time. Melissa is her right-hand woman, I'll call her. And we'll be talking to her in a few minutes. And then also later in the show, we have another treat for you. Our good friend Tom Morrissey is here. Woohoo, Tom.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for calling me a treat.
Yeah, right on. Absolutely.
I'm the
you
trick,
are.
you're the treat.
Yeah, that covers it. That's true.
Yeah.
And he's here because he has co-authored a book with Steven Seagal, and we did ask also for Steven, but he's out of the country.
Yes, he is. He's out on a secret mission. He's filming a series in Asia,
Wow.
Netflix.
I thought he wouldn't work for scale, so
Yeah.
that was why he
What
wasn't.
kind of
here.
chips and salsa does he like? Yeah.
Maybe we get him, right?
Hopefully another time, maybe we can get you together.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure he will. Come on.
But he's going to talk about his book, and we have all kinds of stuff going on. We may not have. Whoops! I accidentally turned that on. We may not have our full cocotazo moments today because we don't have the list of it, but in case you don't know what a cocotazo is, I'm gonna tell you it's.
I ordered that at Taco Bell. They didn't know what I was getting.
Did you?
I said, could I get some extra sauce on that?
Dang it, you have extra cheese and stuff like that.
That's right.
Dang it. But in the Puerto Rican culture, like in the Mexican culture where I'm from, it's a chanclazo. If you did something stupid, you know, your mom might throw a chancla at you. My dad would just look at his belt. That's all he had to do. But the cocotazo is your mom or dad, you did something stupid, they just kind of give you a knock on the noggin.
Yeah.
So usually if people have done some crazy, awful things, and we usually have a long list, that's our cocotazos. So feel free to go to our Facebook site and see these. But we do have a new feature called the whole enchilada. And that's when somebody does something terrific and wonderful. And we'll be talking to you about that also later in the show. So before I get started, I just want to go through some quick announcements so I don't forget them so we can get right into the show. I want to remind you that next week we're going to have Gina Swoboda, and she's going to talk about voter integrity. You know, we should have you come back, Brad, and do the show with us for that.
Oh, I was in the trenches on voter integrity for about 2.5 years.
I know you were.
And, you know, a lot of the stuff that we talked about back in those days, people would not believe us. You know, they wouldn't believe
It was so
that-
unreal and crazy, huh?
well, yeah, and now so much has been revealed that these things are actually happening, and now there's some justification for the fact that we said there was vote fraud going on, and we need to address that.
Seriously, if you would like to join us, you'd be welcome to come and sit in with us because Gina's covering it. She's kind of watching the county recorder's office. She has a lot of information, and it will be a very good show. We also have Jana Jackson, and if you're not familiar with Jana Jackson, she has written a book called Forgotten Soldiers. She actually ran for office, and kind of part of our, you know, this is Women's History Month, and kind of a tribute to women. She's going to be here. Melissa, you can take part of that too since you're a woman too. We'll just give that title to you today as well. So I don't want you to miss next week's show as well. And George will be back. I was going to talk to Steve Palmer, but he just went out the door. Steve Palmer, I wanted to give him credit because he's doing all the technical directing today.
And that ain't easy. Let me tell you, there are wires and things and microphones and cameras and laptops and iPads, and you wouldn't believe the technology to get us from here into your living room on Facebook.
So thank you, Steve Palmer, for doing a terrific job.
Yes.
We really
Yes,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Hooray for Steve.
Yeah.
And you too.
Steve also went to the Trump rally today, and I don't know if you can get on the mic, Steve, but in essence, probably was it pretty rocking out there today?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, right. Hi, everybody. Yeah, it was pretty ruckus. There was probably about 10 to 15 Antifa all dressed up in black with their faces. There was dozens of cops. Lisa and Jennifer did a great job. They had their own security. The Oath Keepers, some bikers, and some military guys in military uniforms over there. And then they had it all taped off. So the biggest ruckus came when Sheriff Joe got on stage. And then Antifa went berserk. Yeah, that was probably the biggest chaos. And all the cops kind of merged over to kind of separate between the protesters and those attending. But overall, it went really great. They had a great turnout. We'll have some photos up later on today. And there was all kinds of video shots. So, yeah, just go online.
Thank you
The
for
Patriot
covering that.
Movement will have a bunch of stuff posted there with Lisa and Jessica.
Well, thanks for covering that.
Jennifer.
Really appreciate it, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah, Steve Palmer, he's everywhere. Were you there, Tom?
No, I wasn't, but I would have liked to have been there with Antifa because they like to beat up old people.
Oh,
I would like them to beat up this old guy.
yeah, I would like to see them for martial
And
arts
babies.
fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom.
Even babies they attacked.
Oh, gosh, darn about. All right, and then I have one more little announcement I don't want to forget, but if you, we also are very good friends with Life Choices Women's Clinic, and our good friend Tanya Grzinski was here recently, and they're going to do their big fundraiser on April 13th. They help mamas who are pregnant, and they're just a great organization. So you can get more information about that also. So now we're going to go to our first rockin' guest of the show, and that's going to be my good friend Brad Zinn.
Welcome.
And who is doing a special fundraiser at Herberger Theater for the Damien Gosa Foundation. And the right-hand woman will say, of the day. Let's see, I wrote this down, Melissa. Melissa Gallegos, Youth and Program Coordinator, but she's a woman of many hats because there's all kinds of stuff you do. Why don't you give the audience a little bit of idea of what you do down there, Melissa?
So right now I am running the kids part of the ministry, which is the after school program. I do the teen nights, Friday nights with teens. I run the food box ministry that we do on Thursdays, making sure that everything comes in, any inventory that's donated to the program. Our teens are running like kind of a thrift store online, and that's raising money for their trips and their stuff that they're doing. So I'm overseeing that, and so my background in business, it really helps that way. And then I'm Cynthia's administrative coordinator.
Is there anything you don't do?
I garden too for them. I'm starting to step away from that, but no, anything that's asked of me, I do.
That's true.
Can I jump in here
Please
because
do.
Melissa has an amazing story, and folks, we're going to be doing. Let me start with. We're going to be doing The Great Comedians, my show, The Great Comedians, those felt hat and big cigar funny men, on March 23rd, 24th, and 25th at the Herberger Theater, Stage West, downtown Phoenix. 3 shows, 3 performances, Friday and Saturday night at 7:30, Sunday the 25th at 2 p.m. And the funds that we raise are to benefit the Damien Ghost Memorial Foundation. I think maybe we ought to mention, Melissa, that Damien was a basketball player at Carl
Yes, he
Hayden.
was.
He went to Central Arizona State College, on over to UTEP, University of Texas El Paso, came home, organized the kids in the neighborhood into basketball teams and tournaments and what have you, keeping the young people busy and out of trouble. One night he was supposed to play in a basketball tournament. He didn't go for some reason. He stayed home, which unfortunately sealed his fate. He was the victim of a house break-in, and they killed him. They shot him dead. And his mother, Cynthia, then started shortly after that the Damien Gosa Memorial Foundation to work with inner city youth to try to avert them from drugs, gangs, and violence.
Yes.
And it's so important. We're seeing so many of these school shootings and things that are going on. If we can get to the lives of these young people early and get them on the right path and teach them ethics and values and morals and responsibility and self-reliance and all those good things, you don't know the ripple effect. It's like the butterflies down in South America, all the thousands of butterflies flap their wings and it maybe creates a tsunami somewhere else. So we can have a real positive effect on the youth of our city, and maybe it can spread. And that's what we're hoping for, that we
Right.
can raise the money to expand the Damien Ghost Memorial Foundation. They do a lot of good, and there's a lot more that you haven't even mentioned yet. But here's what I want people to know about you. Your son, tell the story briefly of how your son got you involved. You were an executive in a major corporation, and you saw the light, if you can call it that,
The tunnel.
and you got the calling. You got the
Right.
calling to give up a really cushy executive job to come and do this work. Tell that story briefly.
Actually, we moved into the neighborhood, and I made a choice to move my kids back to South Phoenix. I wanted to give an opportunity to be with other children. The neighborhood we lived in, there was a lot of retired people. Kids never got to go out and play. It was really hard. So moving them back to South Phoenix was a huge choice to make, and we ended up coming back. And my son says over the summer, "I'm going to volunteer." And I said, "What? Okay, you're crazy." And he says, "No, I'm going to volunteer." I said, "Down the street." And I said, "Okay, well, let's go check it out." He volunteered, and he decided to spend his complete summer volunteering there, cut his time short with his father, and volunteered the entire summer. And he was saying, "Mom, come get involved. Mom, you got to come help." And I was like, "I got so much going on. I got a job. I'm just doing too much. Right now it's just way too much to do." And I worked for a large convenient company, which is a worldwide company throughout the United States and in Japan. So coming out of that, I just didn't have time. And he just kept working. And when the summer ended, he said, "Mom, I want to continue." And his friends started visiting the first week of school, and they said, "Simon, what did you do all summer?" And he's like, "I volunteered." They said, "You got in trouble? What happened?" And it was funny to sit there in my living room to watch these teenagers in high school, and they were like, "Oh, wow, you did it for fun?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he got me to go down there, and I met with Cynthia, our director, and meeting with Cynthia, I knew that there was something there, that I needed to be there, and I volunteered some time, and being there with her. This I knew the calling within the first week. I knew I needed to. This was it. This is where I needed to be, and I'll just say God worked it out. My husband was totally on board. I called him on the Friday and I said, "Hey, look, I have to go full time here." And he goes, "Hey, I want to tell you that I need to talk to you too." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "I got promoted. Go for it." And I said, "Okay."
That's terrific.
So we have been full time in
Wow.
working in the ministry with the Damien Gosman Foundation, and it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. My son has opened us the opportunity. Again, the calling was there where he said, "Hey, Cynthia, I'm sitting here at Taco Bell with my mom. We're eating, and I'm watching teenagers I know from high school jumping in cars and running around and over here just getting in trouble." He goes, "Why don't we have something on Friday nights for teens?" And boom, we ended up starting in January, the first week of January, starting a Friday night teen ministry. It's growing, and I stepped in as I said, "Hey, I'll do it. I will do Friday nights, not only because of my children, but because I know the calling's always been there for young adults." And so I stepped in and I've seen the calling and I've seen what I'm doing and I'm watching the difference in these young men and women. And I do open discussion. So we speak open discussion on what's going on in our community, what's going on in the world, and then we do biblical with scripture of, hey, here's a scripture of the day, and then what do you guys think? And then it's just crazy because these kids, I'm so open that I want them to open their eyes now, because if you don't, and everybody's blinding them with school, everything is just a blinder on their eyes, and so they just get taught what you're allowed to know. So when I do open discussion, I want them to hear from everybody's point of view, and then we just kind of talk about what could we do to make the change. So we made the commitment in January to be Daniels. And so my group was a small group, and we talked about Daniel, and they made the choice to dare to be Daniels. And so daring to be Daniels is just to be different, and be make the right choices.
Melissa, that is such a terrific story. It's always so important. And we talked about this in previous shows, but right now with everything going on, our kids need us more than ever.
Yes.
And this is really the problem. People can talk about the different issues of gun, wherever you stand on that issue. But if we don't save the culture in our kids and things like you're doing now, and God just put his hand and you're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So terrific. But I want to give a special plug to your son, because I got to meet this young man. If we have a chance, we might bring him in here to talk to us for a minute. But Simon Gallegos, he is the owner and designer. How old is he?
He's 16 years old.
16, okay. So he's the owner and designer of Arizona Sneaker Life or Arizona Life Sneaker?
It's AZ Sneaker Life.
AZ Sneaker Life.
Yeah.
Okay, he has it right. I just read it wrong. And what it is, it's sneaker cleaning and restoration services. This is so cool. I told him, I said, he needs to come and just dump all my closet there so he can take care of it. I'm going to give information, and then we'll put up his information too on our website.
Awesome.
But you can call him at 689-4588. So if you live in Phoenix, 602-689-4588, and he's located at the Royal Room Barbershop, and that's pretty close to my house, 5033 South 16th Street in the heart of South Phoenix. It's terrific.
And let me just add to this, that this is a point that Cynthia has made, Damien Gos's mother, whose grief and suffering has led to all of this positive outcome.
Yes, it has.
But Cynthia's made this point that so oftentimes we write these kids off as being lazy, unambitious, unintelligent. It's so not true. And if you spent 5-10 minutes with these kids, we had Alicia
Armstrong.
What a
She
bright,
was awesome.
engaging young lady, and she has ambition. She's intelligent. She presents herself well. The world is her oyster. George absolutely flipped over her. And here's your son at 16 as being an entrepreneur. So the rest of us need to let these kids know that somebody cares. They're not forgotten. They are not being written off, and they have a lot to contribute. And we are there to say, go for it, live your dream, but stay off the drugs, stay in school, and stay positive.
So one of the things is kids, and that's not just South Phoenix, it's not just West Phoenix, kids that are in the inner cities, people all the time look at them as just waste. They're just the waste. You look at other areas and you're saying, hey, okay, well, these kids have opportunities. Majority of the high schools, and I just really seen it because I actually send my son to a school outside of South Phoenix too. And because he plays football, he was very welcomed in and very responsive to the coaches and to colleges. But as I started to get involved with the program, I'm noticing our kids that are coming out of South Phoenix are the ones getting bused into these better communities, and they are using these kids to play sports. Well, that's our opportunity as people that are here in these areas with these kids. We don't have to just give them the hope of a sport. There is so much more because they are very smart, very intelligent children, and they've been written off already. So
And
that's
one
our
of the
big thing.
ambitions of the Damien Gosser Foundation is to start a STEM school.
Yes.
Down in that area so that we have science, technology, engineering, and math for these kids. Because, in this country, let me just philosophize for a moment. In this country, it doesn't matter where you start from, it's where you end up that matters. And everybody has that same chance, or should be given that same opportunity. Because a lot of our millionaires and billionaires didn't get past third grade, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
And so many who were raised in poverty went on to great success. So where you start from in this country doesn't matter. It's where you're going and where you end up.
Right.
You know, C.S. Lewis has a great saying. My wife Chris turned me on to this. You can't change the beginning, but you can start here and change the ending.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
perfect.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah.
So that's what we want to do. And we're going to try to do it with laughter,
Yeah.
We want
Yes,
to
medicine, right?
stay positive, These are the great comedians of the 20th century, the people that took us through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, held us together as a nation. And this is clean, classic, timeless humor that needs to be remembered. And if we're going to fight the culture war, and I think, Tom, you'd agree with me, we need to remind people it doesn't need to be filthy to be funny.
That's
right.
right.
And these are the
Notice
great.
how he didn't ask me, just Tom.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry.
Like, you
That's
ladies.
funny.
I get back to you with a Coca-Tassos or whatever. Give me 2 of those, will you?
I didn't mean
with
to.
extra onion. But these are the guys that created show business as we know it. Because I know Tom's in show business too. And
That's right.
when they started in vaudeville, and then when movies came along, they were the flickers, the silent movies. The greatest thing was just street scenes. That was how it began. They just showed streetcars and people walking, and nobody knew what a movie was.
Right.
And you remember the one with the 24-minute kiss? I think it was just 2 people kissing for like 24 minutes. And that was, there was no plot. There was just 2 people kissing. So it was the comedians that came along and really developed the art form, and Charlie Chaplin and Buster
Yeah.
Keaton and Harold Lloyd and
Laurel and Hardy.
and Laurel and Hardy, absolutely. And then when radio came along, nobody knew what that was either. It only broadcast for 2-3 miles at the time.
Yeah.
And they put on orchestras and music, but they didn't really know what to do with it. It was the comedians who came from vaudeville that expanded the market, expanded the reach, and created the demand for radios in people's homes, because they didn't always go to the theater. They could stay at home and listen to the radio.
Yeah.
And the same story repeated itself with television after the war. In World War II, television was an unknown, even though it had been experimented with in the late 20s and in the 30s. But the Depression and World War II kind of preempted the development of television, so it didn't flourish until after the war. And then Milton Berle was the guy who sold millions of TV sets. And yet, if you talk to young people today, they have no concept of this history.
Right.
And they should know that there were people that came along before the Kardashians that actually had talent and were actually funny without being dirty. And so that's the purpose of my show. And we've done this now for 18 years, literally around the world, from the London Palladium to twice in Las Vegas, twice at the Red Skelton Center for the Performing Arts in Vincennes, Indiana, which was Red Skelton's birthplace and hometown. And I've been on cruise ships all around the world, from Japan and Australia to the Caribbean to the Mediterranean. So this is a world-class show, and I've always wanted to do it at the Herberger Theater in Stage West. And you can get tickets at herbergertheater.org or by calling the box office, which is 602-252-8497, 602-252-8497. And let me let me just add this if I can.
Okay.
We've pulled out all the stops for this show. I mean, we have done everything we know how to do. I'm doing some new material, so if you've seen the show before, come again because you'll see some new stuff. But we have celebrity guest MCs that I'm very excited about. On Friday night, our celebrity guest MC is going to be an Arizona broadcasting icon. If you grew up in Arizona and you don't know this man, you have really missed out. He is Pat McMahon on the Wallace and Ladmo show. He was on KTAR radio for years and still every morning on AZTV on the Arizona Morning Mix. Pat McMahon, he's an icon, he's a friend, and he said, of course, he helps kids all the time anyway. So when I told him about the GOSA Foundation, he said, sure, I'll come. Saturday night, our guest MC is going to be Dr. Sky. Dr. Sky, Steve
Okay.
Cates.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Sky is a frequent and regular contributor to the Coast to Coast AM radio show with George Norrie. He's also always on local news. He's always on AZTV with Pat McMahon talking about things in the sky, meteors, full moons,
He does a
blood
great job
moons.
with that.
Oh, yeah, anything you want to know, all about the space shots and the moon shots and the trip to Mars and whatever. He knows all about that stuff. He's got a fabulous telescope he takes around the state of Arizona, sets up and gives lectures and lets people look through the telescope. He's very well known and an exceptionally nice guy. So he's going to be there Saturday night. And then Sunday for the matinee, very excited to have, speaking of National Women's History Month, we have the newest inductee into the Arizona Women's Hall of Fame as a living legend in the media category. She was the first female anchor on the news here in the Phoenix market, which is no play to chop liver. This was a big market. And she was the first. She broke the ground, broke the glass ceiling, and came from Georgia to steal everybody's heart in Arizona. We love her here. And it's Mary Jo West. Mary Jo West, the first female news anchor.
You're all set, man.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
we're so blessed to have
That's
these
great.
people come and volunteer and donate. So we need you to get a ticket and come and see either Pat McMahon on Friday, Dr. Sky on Saturday, or Mary Jo West on Sunday. What are you waiting for? Pick up the phone and call, or get online at herbergertheater.org and get your ticket.
And now I get to brag about you, okay?
Oh, okay.
Because it's truly, if you have not seen Brad, if you haven't seen the show, Tom, have you seen the show?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
It's
I-
terrific.
The whole show?
I've seen your impressions of the comedians.
Well, you got to see the whole show. It's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah,
It's different. If you
We're gonna come and see it.
Okay,
That's
all right.
awesome.
Good. I have an on-air commitment from Tom Morrissey.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm holding
Two
you to
tickets
this.
at
Right.
least.
You have to get the commitment from Chris.
The boss is out.
Okay.
We have the Oscar.
I will hold her cat hostage until I know you have tickets.
Whatever the spectrum you're on, if you're a young person, as Brad says, and you have no idea who he's talking about, or if you're someone like me that grew up, my parents grew up with all these guys, and I had the blessing to be exposed to their movies, and I just love their humor. I am an old TV nut and movie. I love old stuff.
Me too.
But he just does a brilliant job, and you always have some fresh material. And I, we're gonna have some visitors here with us in the studios today. But truly, don't miss it. And if you want to take your grandkid, maybe you have a grandkid you want to expose to this, do it, because it's really a history lesson. And you know what I find too, when I go back and I watch the movies or even the old series, the Leave It to Beavers, you see the culture there. You see where God was still a part of the life. Brad and I've we've had several
Yes.
conversations about this. So it's really worth going. And I'm so thrilled that Melissa, that you're here to show us, and that you brought your kids into, because man, it's going to be awesome. I think someone's come in the building, and we're just, man, the show is going so. I think we have 30 seconds. Do we have time to talk to this man? Wrap it up.
Thank you very much. This is George Burns, and I'm very happy to be here. Well, who am I kidding? At my age, I'm happy to be anywhere. At my age, flowers scare me. I these days I get a standing ovation just for standing. All I ever wanted to do
We're
was to
getting
be.
one for City.
Thank you. You know, I never married after Gracie, and I probably never will. The thought of Gracie keeps me young. And that's what's important, folks. You got to stay young. You can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old. A lot of people sit around and practice to get old. They sit around and drool on themselves and look at the gravy stains, which is not good unless they're expensive gravy stains.
As long as they're looking and not trying to eat the gravy. We're going to have to wrap it up. George, thank you for stopping in here for the Chips and Salsa
My
Show.
pleasure. We'll
We'll be
see you at the
back.
show.
With more of this and our special guest, Tom Morrissey. I'm Alice Latta here, so stay tuned for more of the Chips and Salsa Show here on Center Right Radio at centerright.live.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Thank you and good night.
Okay. Woo. All right, so you guys are welcome to stay, and we're going to switch in and talk to you.
Okay, mics are clear.
Okay.
So we
sorry.
got 2 minutes. So do you want to, when you come back in, do you want to go ahead and do the Prather point? So we'll do the
I'll
secret
introduce
agent.
it,
Yeah, let me know. We'll do the secret, go to the Prather point, and then come back to the guest then. And then we can do another break if you want to split between.
And I haven't even listened to it. Did you get to listen to it?
No, I didn't get a chance. It's 3 minutes flat.
Okay. Do you know what the Prather point is?
No.
If you listen to James T. Harris, he used to have Jeff Prather on his show. Jeff Prather is a Fast and Furious whistleblower.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I do know what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
I bet you know
Yeah.
him. So, I can't,
We're on commercial break there, Facebook, if you're wondering what's going on. This is behind the scenes.
yeah, so you don't want to, if you don't want them to hear anything, don't say it. So anyway, so every week he does a Prather point for us. So we have him come on. So we thought we'll have him play right before you, since we're going
Great.
to talk about your book. You kind of always connect.
Should I show this at all?
Absolutely. You can put it up right
There's
now.
a
You can put it right
Put it on there? Okay.
We do that as we switch gears a little bit. That's a really nice poster.
so that's gonna fall.
It's gonna fall, yeah.
Let's see, what if we
You know,
move
what
it
if you
back?
stand it down?
What's your drink?
Yeah. That's the.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be too big to try to put that up by the camera.
We'll
Let's
get it.
see. Yep, no, that's a good angle.
We'll get it. And
Yeah, it's not glaring. That's good.
Perfect, perfect.
As long as it doesn't fall over.
Did we get everything that we want to get in? You
Yeah,
guys
I did.
stay with us, and if you want to join in,
Okay.
feel free to.
Yeah.
It's good. And we'll give you another little plug there at the end.
Yeah, because we can do another break to bring in the kids if you want to do that afterwards.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Can we go a few
1
minutes
minute?
longer if we need to?
Yeah, we can go. We don't have another show after this, so we can go whatever you want to do. I mean, we
Just saying,
started a few minutes
for
late.
anybody in Phoenix that
We're at,
was in
36
elementary
minutes.
school between 78 and 92. You
Oh.
were probably performing, so people that
You
are
know what?
my age.
She saw me do my magic show when I was doing elementary
Really?
school assembly
Yes.
shows back in Levine.
Yes, in Levine.
We found this out talking over the
cool.
phone. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And now she is a 16-year-old and shut up.
You know, Brad,
And a 22-year-old.
the Three Stooges, of course, they're a later generation
Sure.
from my neighborhood
Alice?
in Brooklyn.
15-6.
Yeah, from my neighborhood in Brooklyn. These were vaudeville and the where I used to go see movies.
Oh, yeah,
You know, years
absolutely.
earlier.
We are back with the Chips and Salsa Show. And we're doing things a little bit differently today. We might go just a little bit longer in our show. By the way, I want to give a plug to the show before us. That was, I think, his first show, wasn't it, Steve?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we have Ron Harders. Ron Harders used to be with us on Central City Radio. And so now he had his first show today. And is he still calling it the same thing, Chi-Town? Expat,
Yep, Chi-Town expat.
Chi-Town expat, okay. And Ron Harders used to be our Legislative District 27 chairman, GOP chairman. I don't know if he wants me to tell you how old he is, but let's just say he's an octogenarian. And he knows a lot of history, has very interesting stuff. When he was a kid, he only spoke German. He tells a story about how kids used to make fun of him because, you know, at that time, it was a different time, guys, let me just tell you. So tune in maybe next week. He'll be back, and his show will start at 3, and ours will be directly after him at 4. We're going to be talking to Tom Morrissey here, co-author of The Way of the Shadow Wolves, in just a moment, and the rest of that title is The Deep State and the Hijacking of America. But first, we want to go to our weekly feature, and that's our good friend Jeff Prather with the Prather Point. I think he's talking about China Day, but tune in, he always has something great to say. Know that song, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, mics are clear. Stand by.
Okay.
Yeah, mics are clear.
Music's still over the,
I got my,
the music is still over there. There you go. The
Not-
music was playing over his voice.
oh, I
No,
didn't
it's-
hear that on the headset. Okay,
Any way to turn it up just a little?
I've got it maxed.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry. He must have recorded it low, but yeah, I have that maxed.
He's talking about tariffs.
Yeah, it says Trump versus China, North Korea, ISIS, etc. That's the title.
We want to apologize to our Facebook friends. You still can't hear it through Facebook, right, Steve?
Correct. Not until we
Working
do
on
the
that.
API
Hopefully
server.
Real soon we'll be able to do that for you.
How's that, Alice? I
It's a
found
little
another.
better.
Actually, I gotta turn that down. That's the whole master I turned up.
Set up this way all week, so it's always set up.
So you can come to the show.
Well, because this is very extensive to set up.
This is gonna be outside eventually, so the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
room up.
Well, but I mean, you leave it set up all week.
Yeah.
This is too much to put together, once a week,
Yeah.
If we have time at the end, I want to give a shout out to.
So I'll fade this out, do the music on the fade out, and then throw it to you. That way I have time to hit all the mics back on. Well, the secrets, Egypt Man music's going.
Arizona Health and Living.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, Roger.
You can get it at any CVS pharmacy.
Yeah.
CVS
Ready for
pharmacy,
CVS?
right? And then this, it's too late.
You can hear it in your headset though, right?
This was the February issue, and they gave us two pages on
15 seconds, guys.
those.
This is great.
So February and March.
Great. Great exposure. It's a great. Johnny Rivers.
Oh, Johnny Rivers and Secret Agent. I should have just had you sing that song. Secret Agent. Remember Rush did a thing and he called it Secret Asian Man.
No, that was Jay Leno.
Oh, Jay Leonard did it? I thought Rush
Well,
did
that was Judge Ito and the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh.
They had Secret Asian Man.
Yeah. Anyway, that's giving away all our ages, except you're the baby here, right?
I am the baby.
You're the baby. Mr. Prather always has something going on. Boy, he's got his pulse on everything. He still has a lot of friends there within the deep state, we'll call it. So he gives us his little secret. So it's always worth a listen. You can go to Prather, I believe it's Prather Point or PratherDirect.com, excuse me. But we have him here every week, and he still promises he's based out of Tucson. Wednesday he's going to come down in the studio and give us a full interview. We don't have the technology to do a phoner yet, but we're working on that. So along those same lines, we thought it was wonderful to invite Tom Morrissey, our good friend Tom Morrissey, because welcome Tom to the studio again.
Good to be here.
Great to have you. And he has co-authored The Way of the Shadow Wolves. He's got this great poster if you want to go on Facebook. The Way of the Shadow Wolves, The Deep State, and the Hijacking of America. So this is by Steven Seagal and Tom Morrissey. Well, first, before we get started talking about your book, we need to let the audience know a little bit about you. Anybody who if you follow Republican politics, you know who Tom Morrissey is. He was our exquisite chairman. We miss you. Thank you very much.
Miss you.
And he was always very involved. So tell me a little about yourself. You have a martial arts background. You did some work with the sheriff's office. You go ahead and give your bio.
Well, I'm a lifetime martial artist, and that's why I gave that invitation to Antifa. But
You do security for Chips and Salsa now?
we can do that. But my martial arts background has solidified my friendship with Steven Seagal, who is a real martial artist as well. But I'm a retired deputy U.S. Marshal, and I've used my experience as law enforcement as part of the book writing. And I was chief deputy, as a matter of fact, for this federal district. And before I got into that, I was a musician. I was in the Ohio Express, yummy, yummy, yummy.
really?
And I was with a group called the Echoes. We had a Baby Blue and Bluebirds Over the Mountain. And I was a songwriter for Ray Charles and for Richie Havens. And then I grew up and I went to work in the Marshal Service, and it brought me through. Then I got into politics and wound up being the chairman of the Arizona Republican Party. Fought my fight with the establishment in the Republican Party, and I brought that to the book as well. Steven Seagal is a great patriot. There's a lot of fake news out there about him, his Russian ties and things like. His father was born in Russia, so it gave him the right to have dual citizenship. He's a martial artist who trained Putin, President Putin, so that's how they know each other. But one of the things people don't know about Steven is that he is half Mohawk. His mother is a full.
Well, I thought he was part Native American.
Yeah, and the book is about a tribal police officer in Arizona who stumbles on to a major case. Now, this is factual fiction. This is fiction based on
I like that, factual
fiction. And the case is actually modeled after Fast and Furious gun running case. And what it is speaking from my experience. I know that as a law enforcement officer, if you can't trust the people you're working with, you're in deep kimchi. And kimchi, and that's what the lead character, whose name is John Godet. He is part Apache and part Mohawk, and he is his full name is John Nantan Godet. His grandfather was a shaman and a medicine man. Now I'm going to depart for a second from the storyline. Last week, my wife and I were privileged to be part of a Navajo blessing ceremony. And our book was blessed by a Navajo medicine man. And what's happened since the book has been put together, since it's been published, there's a lot of nice things that have been happening that have been able to help us bring the book to the public eye. And I don't believe anything's an accident.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I think there's an energy in the book. It wasn't intended to be a political statement. As I said, it's factual fiction, but it has turned out to be that. And we have trolls. It's on Amazon, and we have every time we get a 5-star rating, which is our actual. We don't solicit for that. It's followed within minutes a 1-star rating, so this has ticked off the establishment, and the establishment is in both parties. We're not just talking about Democrats; we're talking about Republicans as well. The President Trump, whatever your feelings are on President Trump, has brought together a whole different segment of our population. He's brought the grassroots Republicans, I say blue collar, yellow dog Democrats, and independents, and brought that in empowered people. And the book, the book is really written in the time frame of the previous administration, and things that happened. But the storyline is about a police officer, a Native American police officer, who cannot trust anybody. He has learned of tremendous corruption in government and in law enforcement. We wrote this 2 years ago. We wrote it, and what was written into the book is coming to pass. The corruption in the FBI is in the book. The massacre in Las Vegas is in the book.
Oh my.
Wow.
And I mean, it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up when all that happened. These are things that are happening now, were written into the book as fiction a year and a half to 2 years ago. And mainly what it's about, again, as I say, it's about a Native American police officer who has to rely on a group, and the Shadow Wolves exist. They are Native American trackers, and they are law enforcement officers.
Mm.
They are known to be able to track footprints on rocks. They have. I mean, they have.
It's amazing stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And so what it is John Godet can't trust anybody but his blood brothers and sisters who are Shadow Wolves. Now there's 240 Indian nations around our country. 240. Just about all of them are represented in Shadow Wolves. So the book is about him leading the Shadow Wolves against the establishment and the deep state, and with the help of one U.S. Marshal. I got to bring that. Gotta bring in the U.S. Marshal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wonder who that is. But that's what the storyline is about. But as I say, it's an adventure thriller, and as of yesterday, there's a genre on Amazon. It's published through Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and Jet, and eBay. But mainly it's on Amazon. And there's a genre of books. This genre is Native American literature and fiction. Native American literature and fiction. There's 10,000 books in that genre. Yesterday we were number 12.
That is terrific.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That is
And
really
this-
fantastic.
This sounds to me like there's a screenplay in
I was
here.
just gonna ask you.
That's what I was thinking too.
Funny you should mention that. But Stephen's plan is to create this into a film series,
Yeah.
and I was hoping that we perhaps get a radio show out of it, but he corrected me and said no, wait, this is what he, because he's looking for a new something new to do.
It would be a good TV series.
Well, he's
Told
doing it, and I suggested that to Alice, but he said no, he'd rather do it as a film series. And I said, hey, whatever,
Yeah. You could Netflix that or whatever.
I'd be
The
happy.
only
to-
thing about those is sometimes it takes forever. You're watching the show and then it's months till they have the same one. So if he does it, tell him I don't want to wait months to wait to see what happens.
Well, he has a Netflix series that he's filming now called The Commander, and this would be the next project. But we're beginning work on a sequel to this book. So so he wants. That's what that's his plan right now. So
I have not read this book. Have you read this book?
I'm just now finding out about it.
I mean, I kept saying that, and I thought I've got to find out what it's all about. And then you had to go move to Payson. So when I saw and I told you when you're in town, please, anytime you're in town, come and stop by. Just open invitation to both of you as well, too. But this is so exciting, and I'm so glad that it went on right after Jeff Prather, because he was actually a fast and furious whistleblower.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be kind of cool. At some point, it would be nice to have you and him on together and talk about all the different things that you've seen in your life and being part of this martial experience that you have. Wow.
well,
A lot of secrets that you can't tell us.
the sequel to this book is about international gun running, and it's going to be based on a case I worked as a deputy marshal. I was a fugitive hunter, and I had a case. I was looking for a Jamaican gun runner for 14 months, And
That's nothing like a Jamaican bobsledder, is it?
I love that movie. John Candy is one of my favorites. But it's an actual case that I reckon it's going to evolve into the situation in Benghazi, which has a lot of deep roots that I think we'll be able to bring out in the book.
So did you catch him?
I did, yeah. But I didn't. I mean, we did. I did. I was
Team
part of
did.
the arrest team, but it took us 14 months to. Yeah, it was a chase that started in Miami and wound up in Detroit, and he had killed 10 people between the time we started looking for him and
Oh,
when we
my.
finally caught him. Yeah.
Oh, my. Well, how can people get this book, Wes?
Go to Amazon. Amazon, you can get everything, including a cigar, like you just said. Right? And we have to share a cigar.
Okay, you got it.
And but go to Amazon. Or you just Google "The Way of the Shadow Wolves." The Way of the Shadow Wolves. The full title, because there are other books called Shadow Wolves. They do exist, and this particular
The Way of the Shadow.
The Way of the Shadow Wolves. Yeah.
Is this on audiobook?
Not yet. We're producing that.
Oh,
We're
good.
getting ready to produce it. And there's an idea I have that I want to do is I want to do a reading of this book and future books as a old style radio broadcast.
Oh, that would be too
Excuse me.
cool. Is he auditioning you?
Yeah.
I hope so. I'm available.
You don't have to audition.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer in having friends, working with friends and people I know in these projects.
Well, if you need the voice of a president, I'll be happy to supply that for you.
Good,
Anything
very
else?
good. Yeah.
That's
But anyway, that's where we're hopefully where we're headed. But the book is doing very well right now. Doing very well.
Now, are you gonna have any book signings that are coming out?
Oh, I have Sheriff Joe wrote the foreword. I hope Antifa is listening. And so Joe has been ordering. So when Stephen gets back, we'll do two book signing events. One in Phoenix, and hopefully one up in my neck of the woods.
And then you come back and do the show, right?
And
And bring Stephen in.
if he'll do it,
Sure.
he'll do the show if he's here.
I'll
Can-
have
can-
to warn
can-
him
can
that
you-
I'm gonna invite my girlfriend who's in love with him.
With Stephen?
She's in New Mexico, but I already know, and her name is Alice as well. I know she will be here, just waiting to meet her.
Okay.
Now, he's a big guy. Are you sure he's going to fit in this studio?
Yes.
I mean, it took a shoehorn
We
and
will make
Vaseline
him.
to get us in here.
Or maybe movies as well. We will make him fit, no worries about that.
He's very adept at that.
Yeah, everything that he's done, not a problem,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
He is. The thing about Stephen that I have to say is he is a creative genius. I mean, my wife will attest to this. When we were writing the book, he'd call me sometimes 10:30 at night, and he'd call me Tommy. Tommy, he said, Tommy, I got something I got to say to you. I said, what's that? He said, you know that scene, and you take a scene. Let's just make a slight adjustment. He'd give me the adjustment and took something very mundane, very, very mediocre, and turned it into something spectacular. The guy,
That's a talent.
I mean,
Wow.
he really is. I mean, he is very, very talented and very humble. He's a very humble man. Very, very humble.
Tom,
man.
I don't want you to finish the interview without talking about your radio show that you have up in Payson.
Oh, okay.
I
Thank you.
keep trying to listen to it, and I get in there, boy.
Well, I do a radio show. I do a music show. It's not political. On a station called KRIM 96.3 FM, and we have an app that you can listen to. It's krimfm.com. The last 2 weeks, I've had Ted Nugent on as a guest, as a co-host, and we
I
played a
bet you
lot.
did get political a little bit there.
No, actually,
didn't?
the interview was kind of cut in half because when Ted gets rolling, but he's done some spots, station spots, and things like that. He did a spot for my show when he was on the show. But he's a very interesting man. He's very involved in many things. He's very talented, and we got to discuss his music and play a lot of his music. His influences are mostly the black blues musicians of old, John Lee Hooker.
I have seen him in concert. He is a fantastic guitarist
Yeah.
and performer. And then you, of course, anybody may not know out there, but you have a rock and roll background
Yeah,
with
Yeah.
the Ohio Express.
the Ohio Express and
Nice.
the Echoes and the radio. I
I
got
was a kid and used to listen to and love, love
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
watching a video of you today and I'm like, oh, that's got to be Tom right
Yeah.
there.
well, the thing is, we were also anybody. You remember a song called "Gimme Gimme Good Lovin'"?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
The
Well,
animals.
yeah. Well, get that. Bring that up on YouTube and play the B side.
Okay.
And the B side is a song called "Dark Part of My Mind," and listen to the lead singer. You may recognize the voice. And
Wow.
"Dark Part of My Mind."
Was that like an omen into your future political life?
I
The
wonder.
dark
I
side?
wonder. Dark Part of My. Well, what it was we were studio musicians with Cousins and Cats, and they were in the bubblegum. They produced a little bit of soul. Simon Says, 1910
Sure.
Fruit Company, and the Ohio Express. So we played. We were studio musicians and background singers and lead singers and things, and we got to record. With as a matter of fact, we did one of the B sides of the 1910 Fruit Gum Company, ABC Red Light, 1 2 3 Red Light. 1 2 3 Red Light. We did the flip side, Sticky Sticky, which is probably the worst.
I don't remember that
Sticky,
one.
sticky.
It's the worst. You know what it was?
Sounds like your routine, Brad.
We
It
had
sounds like it should be banned from the radio.
if you listen to it. But we were sitting in our cubby holes. It was songwriters. We each had a little office. And they came in. They needed
Some side effects.
yes, sound effects. They needed a B side. So we were sitting
Sorry.
with the group. So one of the writers of 1 2 3 Red Light said, "I got an idea. Let's just do a thing called you guys just say Sticky Sticky, and I'll play a lick on the piano." So I'm playing the back of my guitar as a drum. Harry Boyle, who was my music partner all the way through, Harry was playing. I think Harry's playing his guitar, and then a close friend of mine, Billy Panzo, was playing the ashtray with the pencil.
Oh,
And we had a
wow.
piano, and we're doing, and it goes sticky, sticky, ding, ding, sticky, sticky. So we recorded as the 1910 Fruit Gum Company, as the Crazy Elephant, the Ohio Express, and it was just, I got stories I could tell forever.
I know. You need to come back. I just want to do stuff about that.
Yeah,
Because,
I could
that's,
tell. Yeah.
I was a little girl. I know all that music. It'd be so much fun.
You remember Jimmy Croce?
Sure.
Jim Croce?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Time in a
Love
Bottle?
Jim Croce.
Jim
Love
Croce, we were in the same songwriting stable. I'll just tell you a real quick
Let's
story.
do-
We were offered to be Jimmy's backup band to travel. And I wouldn't be talking to you right now if we had accepted that offer because he got killed in a
Because
plane
that's
crash.
when you got
Yeah.
your plane.
And Jimmy, when he wrote "You Don't Mess Around with Jim," the line you don't spit and super fast.
You don't tug at Superman's cape. You don't
Yeah.
spit into the wind.
Well, it wasn't "spit in the wind." Was not the word. They
Oh,
replaced
something
that.
Oh, so, well, all these
Don't talk
secrets
about
we get to
Superman's
know.
cape.
Right. Wow.
But-
I also, yeah.
But Jimmy was great. It was another. These are sterling people. Tony Orlando. I got to know Tony and work with Bo Diddley and all those amazing people who were really, really nice people. Really,
Well, you
really
probably
nice.
have some great guests on your show. So that's Thursday. Is it
Thursday.
4?
Thursday at 3:00.
At 3, excuse me.
3 Arizona time. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. We have 30 seconds. Grab it quick. Grab
I just want to, if I could,
10
real
seconds.
quick, Arizona Health and Living Magazine, the March issue, has a 2-page spread on the show at the Herberger about the great comedians, available at any CVS pharmacy. And we want to thank the folks at Arizona Health and Living Magazine for giving us 2 pages to promote our show. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad Zinn. Go see him for the Damien Gosa Foundation. Thank you, Melissa Gallegos, for coming in. We'll have this stuff up on our Facebook page. Tom Morrissey, The Way of the Shadow Wolves, The Deep State and the Hijacking America. Be with us, please, next Saturday at 4 p.m. here for the Chips and Salsa Show. I'm Alice Sada, and
Just got a break
we're
and
gonna
then bring
go.
them in.
Okay, can you go a little bit? Oh,
Yep.
okay. Oh, we're going to break. Oh, I thought we were wrapping the show. Good, we have another little segment.
No,
Okay, right on. So stick with us. We'll be right back with a little bit more of the Chips and Salsa Show.
Why don't I make room for the kids? So the kids are coming in? Are they coming
Yeah,
in?
we can bring in,
Yeah.
the.
Okay.
okay, Mike's fine. No, because you said you wanted them, so that's why I was like, we'll get the break in because we're at 1 hour now.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And then that way we got,
Tom and I have, we're gonna go see A Man About a Horse.
Okay,
And you stay with your
you
kids.
can stay with Simon. Okay.
Come on.
We'll put Simon over here.
Perfect.
I'll
Thank
get this
you.
out. Thank you. This is great.
I am like, I'm on it.
So
I'm gonna get the book.
I went through the girls for Friday.
Really, would
do
you,
I need to pick up one or
when you're
just
here
do a
any
press
Saturday,
pass,
come on
bring
in.
my press credentials
hang out
for,
with
Let's
us.
see if we get back page.
for the Friday show, like we talked.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Okay.
But I'm serious about my girlfriend.
Yeah,
My
my niece.
Alice, if you're watching
uh,
Alice Koenig, she loves.
Well, I'll get him when he gets back.
Yeah.
You know,
We're
see, he
that
lives
was
in
so
Cape
cool.
Free. You know, so,
Oh, he does?
so,
I don't know, I thought he lived out of town.
no, he has a ranch over in
We're on Facebook in case you don't want to give the location.
okay. All right.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
Are you gonna hang around a little bit longer?
You
Yeah,
want me
Watch
to?
the rest of it,
Yeah.
so I can say goodbye properly?
You got it.
Yeah, we're gonna do a quick interview with
Okay.
Simon.
I'll wait outside.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
minute 30.
Come on in, guys.
Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you, brother.
Good to see you
Good
again.
to see you as always.
I wanna let Facebook
Very
Live
nice
know
meeting.
about,
Nice meeting you.
One Truth.
You're
Are you
still live.
Facebook Live?
Yep,
Okay.
we're still live.
One Truth is our sponsor.
Oh, we don't have the CD.
Yeah, you know what? I do have the
Let's bring the
CD.
girl over here. That'll be easier for her.
Cheyenne, come over there.
Just watch the cable
We're
here
getting the.
and squeeze through.
Alice, we're gonna have.
Oh, you gotta go? Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay.
I'll
We'll
see
see you
you.
later.
I'll see you soon.
Thanks again.
And-
Appreciate it.
I'll talk to you about James.
Okay,
Thanks,
perfect.
Dave.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you so much.
Thank you.
But our sponsor is One Truth, and they are a band.
Sit down, you're too high.
I'm almost, gotta sit down. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
there you go.
He had it just right, and I was messing up. Anyway, our sponsor is One Truth, and normally George is in here and he gives you all the lowdown on it. But they have been sponsoring a show for quite a while, so if you just go to their Facebook site, One Truth, they also have a
You stay
wonderful
about
song
6
called
inches from
Inferno.
there.
They do
I'm gonna
some
go ahead and do
great,
the
great
headset.
stuff. They have a wide appeal, young to old. So I just encourage you to please look up One Truth. And next week when George is back, I promise you, he'll give you the full rundown on everything. I want to appreciate your patience too. We're doing something a little bit different. Normally we just have a 1 hour show. We wanted to make sure we had time to talk to the kids of the Damien Gosa Foundation. And so if you just bear with us, we'll be right back on for the radio in a little bit. And by the way, if you still need to share it, please do. Just share it to your own Facebook site. And if you've missed any part of the show, you can just go to Center Right Radio, and that's centerright.live, and we'll have the podcast up soon. Okay, so we're gonna go live here in just a few minutes. And we are back for a special additional segment of the Chips and Salsa Show. I'm Alice Nada. George Ortiz, Don Jorge, is not here today. He had to work hard, and so he's gone. He has a day off, but he'll be back next weekend. And we have another little special treat. Earlier in the show, we were talking to Melissa Gallegos. We call her the right-hand woman of the Damien Gosa Foundation.
Yes, yes.
And she's still with us, and that she really does so much. And her story, it's such a terrific story of what you're doing. And I promise you, if I don't get down there this week, I'm gonna be there next week and go check out the
And
foundation.
anybody who's interested in coming down and checking out what we're doing with the kids and what we do at the house, and even on Food Box Thursdays, just helping feed the community, come join us. Come down, join us, or even come and just see what we're doing.
And we'll
And
take volunteers.
Yeah.
And that's, where's the location for the
We're
foundation?
at 2102 East Alta Vista, and that's Phoenix, Arizona 85042.
Okay, and that's just between what, Broadway and Southern?
It's actually Southern, and it's just right south of Southern on right off of 24th Street.
Okay, very good, yeah, check it out. Well, we thought we'd do a little special treat since Melissa was nice enough to bring her kids with her. And we talked earlier about Simon Gallegos, her son, and give me your name again, sweetie, I'm sorry. Cheyenne. Cheyenne? Okay, great, thank you for coming in. And we have them at the mic, but I want to talk to Simon for a little bit, who is, man, what an entrepreneur. He is the owner and designer of AZ Sneaker Life. I got that right this time?
Yes.
That is Simon? Thank you. Okay, so what I want to ask you, What gave you the idea to do this?
I've been in the sneakers my whole life.
I have too sometimes.
I've been cleaning for like years, like 2, 3 years on my own. I've been doing it on my own a lot. Um, I've been wanting to do something, and football kind of took a turn, so I didn't do it no more.
Mhm.
And I just put my mind on on my sneakers and created my business.
Nice. I think that's a great idea. I have bought the specials solution that they have and they sell in the stores, which seems to work, but I never do it. And
Mhm.
so mine look atrocious. This is such a great idea. Do you have regular customers?
Yeah.
And but these are not expensive prices either. Look, you can get your classic clean. It's only $12. And they come back to life after clean. They look brand new, don't they?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
We watched him restore some shoes that are amazing. When Simon was in 8th grade, I used to get on him. I'd be like, "Why are you bringing home other people's dirty shoes?" But football was his life. He thought he was going to go to college on a scholarship, and he had an injury and some medical stuff that did a turn. And I said, "Don't worry about focusing on that." I said, "So figure out what you want." And he came to us with the mentors that he had from the Damien Guzman Foundation. Helped launch him.
Wow, that's terrific. Yeah, tell us a little bit about the foundation, what you'd like somebody out there to know that maybe they don't know about it.
It's very good. It helps you with all types of things. It helps other people with all types of things. If you're in need or you need, like, you just need someone to talk to, or you don't know why or something, you can always go and ask, talk to Cynthia, my mom. There's always people that would help, or there's people coming in every day that can help you too.
They offer after school tutoring. We have on-call tutors that help with our all our kids, all ages, but we have some that just focus on high school students because high school is such a struggle now for kids. They don't get as much, but they have on-call tutors too that we can offer them, and that's something. And mentors. That's where he says when you can come in, we have mentors for young men that is just on call, that are willing to just be there, hang out, talk to you, play basketball.
That's great. That's wonderful. I want to ask Cheyenne too. So, are you involved too with the foundation? Do you go there? What do you do there?
I just help out like on the food box Thursday. I help out and I like help the teenagers, and I'm just one of the teenagers, and I help with the adults. I just watch the kids and everything.
Oh, very good. Good job. That's nice. And what do you think? Most of the kids there are teens. Do you think, or you have all ages that come?
We
Right?
do. If your child is potty trained, we'll take them.
Nice. That's a good line. It's a
Feed the
fine line.
diapers.
We'll take them in. We've even talked about maybe we need to start a daycare center for the neighborhood, and we laugh, but there's just not enough of us there to do it. But yeah, I mean the kids are phenomenal. They range from we've had them from 3 years old to 18 right now. Simon's 16, so he's our oldest right now that's with us. We do have a young man, Jose, who's in college, and he's 19 now. And he with college, he hasn't been able to be there as much as he wants to, but he's come out of the program all the way through and learned to speak English and everything through the program
That's true.
and tutoring. So there's all opportunities of all age groups. We want to be there, have a safe haven for them to go, have somewhere that they can feel that they can be themselves and learn and discover that there's not always something just out there to get in trouble with, because that's the big part of it, is being somewhere safe. And like I said earlier, Simon was the one we were sitting and talk about, and he's seen that with the teenagers.
I'm just so impressed. I mean, really, you were the one that got your mom into it. What a great story. And you go to school. Where do you go to school?
Mountain Point.
You like that?
Yeah.
That's cool. Great. And one of the things that living, because I live in South Mountain too, there are a lot of buses, and they do go to a lot of different schools. And I'm a person who, if you can, I want you to get the best education that you can. I don't mind paying for my taxes. We don't have kids, but I want our kids to have a good education. And so I'm thrilled when you're out there and you're looking for the opportunities. And it's a tougher world today, I think, than how it was. Most of us, we were fortunate because we still had a lot of moms and dads at home. And I think a lot now that's more the exception, right? Most of the kids don't have moms and dads at home. Would you say that?
Yeah. But one of the things our kids do is they cook along with us. They learn to cook, but we feed them. My kids get in and cook along with some of the other teens, and some of the younger ones teaching them to cook, and they make dinner for themselves. And then we do it as a staff with them to make sure that they are eating dinner, because a lot of children go home without a meal because there's not a mom and dad at home, or mom is a single mom and she works, and by the time she gets home it's 7:30 and she's hungry, but she can go without dinner, but the kids can't. And so it's very hard. Kids aren't eating till 9 o'clock at night. So that's an opportunity that we're giving them to be self-sufficient. And it helps because my kids learn to cook too. But I've been big on that. So it's fun to see them all in the kitchen cooking and learning and using the measuring cups correctly. So that's
I
fun.
think that's great. You know, one of the things as you guys start developing them, I know that you do, and as they get older and they want internships, if you find someone that has an interest in radio and would like to come here, maybe they'd like to come intern with us, and they could, Steve's always looking for some help out there, and they can learn about the different aspects of radio. Maybe they're a person like me that likes to blab a lot, and they could bring us a report of what's happening down at the foundation or what's going on. We're here every Saturday to do that, because that's the thing to get them involved in. There's so many different things you can do, like this sneaker cleaning business. This is just so cool, and this is just one idea. Who knows what's going to happen in your life and what you'll think of and to do. I think it's terrific. Okay, so before we end this conversation, is there anything that you'd like to tell some kids your age out there? The microphone is yours.
Just to add me on Instagram at AZSneakerLife1, and then I do upload pictures of the cleaning and
Can see
stuff
your
like
work.
that on Snapchat at AZSneakerLife. So
And can you take the stink out of the sneaker?
yeah, yes, I
You can.
No way.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Okay, like I say, I might have to deliver some sneakers over here. So
Yeah,
that
me
taken care of.
Yeah.
Cheyenne, you have anything you'd like to say to our audience?
Just follow whatever you feel like is what you need to do.
I tell you what, I'm impressed too, because we did have Alicia came in, as Brad was talking before, and the kids that come here, they have really neat little personalities, and you can tell they have the self-confidence, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard to be a kid in today's world. It really is. I salute you guys for doing this, for helping your mom, and I salute you, Melissa. I think it's terrific. One of the things that we didn't do, and this is a good opportunity since you're here, we didn't get to do our copetazos today, but we do want to go ahead, and we started this new award called the Whole Enchilada Award. So there's a lot of negative stuff that happens in our world, but there's some positive too. And I don't know if you guys heard the story, but we do have it posted on our Chips and Salsa Show Facebook page. And what it is, it's a waitress, and I'm not going to remember, I'm going to say it's Texas, but I can't remember exactly where it was. But what happened was she is saving money, working as a waitress, to save money to go to college.
Waffle House.
Waffle House? Okay, thank you, Steve. And this older gentleman comes in, and he was having trouble cutting up his steak, his meat. And so she cut it for him. So someone got a picture of that, and lo and behold, it became viral. And they end up giving her a scholarship. I think she got $16,000 and some money for it. And so, does it have her name on there? Are you looking at the story?
No, I can't remember. I remember the gentleman had just got out of surgery, so he had a tank. He still had his hospital socks on because they took a picture of him behind.
Yeah.
And so he was weak just coming out of surgery, and she just
And she
helped
came
him
to
out.
his aid.
Yep.
So we want to award her the whole enchilada. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like the Damien Gosa Foundation and you kids, you see a need and you just take care of it. She goes, I would have just done it. It wasn't,
Right.
you need to help your fellow human beings and do it.
That's the whole enchilada right
That
there.
is the whole enchilada. So we give her applause for that. Way to go. Right on. And I want you guys to come back and give us a report. Are you going to Brad's show? What night are you going?
Yes, we are going. I believe I'm going to be actually working the table.
Okay.
More likely, my kids will probably pop in and out and work in the table. They do a lot of work. They do a lot of work with me, and I think
Ushers.
it's awesome because they're growing and they're building great work ethics. But not only that, but strong self-esteem.
terrific. Well, we're going to be there Friday, so we'll look for you and see you. And again, we invite you to do that. That's going to be at the Herberger Theater, and the first show is March 23rd. That's Friday, so it's the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th,
Yes.
and that's right downtown across from St. Mary's Catholic Church. So please, and if you can't go, you know what you can do? You can donate.
Yes.
They'll take your check and money.
Yes, we will take all donations. But if you are locally from Phoenix and you were a kid in elementary school between 78 and 92, and the magic man used to come to your school and pull a quarter out of your ear or the other students' ears, that was Brad.
Wow.
So I remember watching him when I was a kid at Levine School. So anybody who went to Levine or Tolleson, it was Brad.
That is so cool. That is so cool. So please do that. Melissa Gallegos, thank you Thank you very much for coming in. And thank you, Simon, and thank you, Cheyenne.
Thank
We
you for having
appreciate it. This was the Chips and Salsa Show. It's been terrific. And please join us again next Saturday here at 4 o'clock on Center Right Radio at centerright.live. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Happy Sunday to you. And guac on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, clear.
Okay, the mics are off. Thanks for sticking with us. I know that was
Thank
kind of
you,
long.
guys.
We have to squeeze everybody in and get everybody in.
Oh, that was phenomenal. This is a phenomenal what you guys are doing. It's just neat. That is really cool. I've always wanted, seen the back. I've never been in the radio studio, but this